Thank you for joining me today. We're going to take a quick look at OES 2015 and how you can join it to Active Directory. To get started, let's create some new volumes. The first volume we're going to create through iManager. One of the first new features that you'll see here is that we can create both NSS32 and NSS 64-bit pools. NSS32 are the traditional 32-bit NSS modules. As you know, with these we support pools and volumes of up to 8 terabytes in size. NSS64, however, are the new 64-bit NSS modules. With these we support pools and volumes of up to 8 exabytes in size. An exabyte is 1,000,000 terabytes. We're going to finish creating this volume and then we'll move over to the command line tools just to show you the difference or the similarities that exist there. Now from the command line, we're going to create another pool and volume. This time we'll select the 64-bit module just to show you that these two modules can coexist on the same server. While these two types of volumes can coexist on the same server, unfortunately there is currently no migration plan that will let you convert a 32-bit NSS volume to a 64-bit NSS volume. You have to do a data migration. Once we have these volumes, CIFS enabled on these volumes, and time sync as well as DNS configured properly, we can go ahead and get started with installing the NSS for AD services. To do this, we go into YAST and select the OES install and configuration. And we scroll down and find the Novell Storage Services AD support pattern. We use this to install all the necessary modules as well as configure and join this particular OES server to the Active Directory domain. Here you need to enter the credentials of someone who is authorized to join a new computer to the domain, typically your domain administrator. Once this is complete, we're going to switch over to Active Directory and browse the computer's container. And there we can see that our OES server is now an object inside of Active Directory. Our OES server is now a member server inside of AD. Alright, now we're almost done. Our users already exist inside of eDirectory and have rights to the file system, but what we need to do next is map all of those rights to the users that exist inside of Active Directory, so that the users will have the same experience when they log in from either eDirectory or Active Directory. What to do now is use a new utility that comes with OES 2015 called the Novell User Rights Map. This is a service that runs on your OES server. We need to first create a user map. User map maps the users from eDirectory to Active Directory. In order to get the Active Directory users, we also have to authenticate to Active Directory. We start with eDirectory and select the container from which we want to map users. We then go over to Active Directory and do a search there and find the appropriate set of users that we wish to match and map them up one by one. Once we have our map complete, we go ahead and we save this map to reference later on. Now that we know which users in eDirectory correspond to which users in Active Directory, we're actually ready to go ahead and map the rights on the volumes. First, we select the Map Rights feature and then select the volumes which we wish to match. We select the corresponding user map that accompanies these volumes and then select how we want to apply the rights. Do we want to simply map the users from eDirectory to Active Directory or also remove the rights from eDirectory users? Now it's time to put this to the test. Our user rights should be mapped between eDirectory and Active Directory. We chose not to remove the rights from eDirectory users, so therefore we should be able to log in from both a Novell client and a Microsoft client. Let's first log in to the OES server using a workstation with the Novell client. With the Novell client, as you know, we're authenticating against eDirectory. Our user Bob has a home directory on the OES server. We're going to go ahead and create a file on this home directory and add some data to this particular file. Using this workstation with the Novell client, we're going to show that there is pre-existing data that we will then later on access from a workstation with a Microsoft client authenticated to Active Directory. This time we're going to access the OES server from a workstation that is authenticating to Active Directory using our same credentials of Bob. Again, we map the identities between Bob in eDirectory and Bob in Active Directory. Our two users, Bob, both have access to the same sets of files and directories on the OES server because of the user rights map that we created. This time we're going to access the same file by a user who is authenticated to Active Directory and make some changes to that file. Lastly, we're just going to switch back to the Novell client and show you that eDirectory and Active Directory authenticated users both have access to the OES data. Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully you can see that you can indeed access data on an OES server from a client joined to a Microsoft Active Directory domain. Watch the Novell website for the public beta of OES 2015 coming out soon. And then later on this summer, you can actually get the released version of OES 2015 and try this out for yourself. Thank you again for your interest in OES and where we're taking this product in its next version.